Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, this is slicedlime, and this is episode 6 of Advanced Map Making Tutorials. First of all, my apologies to those of you who've been waiting for far too long for this episode. I have been totally busy with all the Minecraft 1.9 coming out things, including lots and lots of snapshot videos and the actual 1.9 What's New video. But now we're back in action, and we're going to continue this series by looking at the next step of our journey towards getting into a game. So, as a reminder, we have this little system here, and we have our states. So we have the state 0 lobby that we've been working at. We've been making a team joining system so you can join red or blue team. And last time we looked at map controls, we made a clickable sign and spent a lot of time in raw JSON strings fixing up so that you have a sign that you can click, and that sign then cycles through the round length of the game. Of course, we don't have a game yet. And that's what we're going to try to get towards today in state 1. We haven't done anything of state 1 other than set up a state clock here. This state 1 clock actually does nothing at the moment. It's disabled. So we haven't put anything on here. We put everything onto state 0. And we're going to keep adding onto state 0 today in order to create the switch over to state 1. So last time we made something called a trigger scoreboard, and it's called action, and we implemented our first action, which is cycle round length. Of course, now that we've done that, let me switch over to game mode survival here, and we get over to our little lobby area. Now, notice this. This is sad news I have for you, and this is a bug in Minecraft 1.9. The actual released version of Minecraft 1.9 has a bug with custom sign JSONs. Any sign that has a score in it disappears on load. So I can do trigger action set 1, and that actually cycles it, but as you can see, the text is still gone. So that is a bit of an issue, and I'll get back to that later in the episode. But for now, let's switch back into game mode creative and pick up a sign. What we're going to do is we're going to make another clickable sign here, and it's going to say ready check or start game or whatever you wish. This anyway is going to be an action that you click, and it's going to set your action to 2, and that action is going to be a request to start a ready check. Now, our game has 2 teams. That means you probably don't want to be able to start the game with this ready check until you have 2 teams. That means you have at least 1 player on each team. So we're going to be checking a bunch of things and sending out a bunch of error messages if you haven't done everything correctly. And if you have done everything correctly, that's when we'll go into the ready check and, well, do all the things that is required for that. Like giving people snowballs and checking which snowballs have been thrown and all that kind of fancy stuff. We'll see how far we get on this today, but the first thing we need to do is to make this sign clickable like we did last time, and to sort this whole sign business out. Now, if I give myself a command block here, we can realize one thing about this sign that makes it simpler than the one we did last time, and that is the fact that this one doesn't update. This only contains the text ready check and not anything else, while this one contains the actual text, well, round length and the amount of minutes that is the current round length. So that means that this one has to have a score in it and has to keep updating. This one only needs to be a trigger, which means that we can do that with a command block right here, say block data, and the block above it, and then set the text right here that we want. The text is, we want to change text to, because that's the second row, and what we want it to be is a JSON string, and that is going to be a text, and that text is going to say ready check, just like it does right now. The difference, of course, is going to be in what we add here. We're going to add a click event like we did last time. And of course, these need to be quoted nowadays. And the quotes need to be escaped. And then that has a subclause. And like we did last time, this needs an action field. That action field says run underscore command. And then it also has a value field, and that value will say the command that we're going to run. Now, this command is going to, just as the last time, be almost identical. And it's going to be /trigger action set 2. So we're reusing our action trigger scoreboard from last time, and it's basically the same thing, we're just setting a different action value. So now if we set that to always be active, it's going to run once. And then let's go scoreboard objective set display sidebar action. We see that my map control action has become 2. So that works. If I click this sign, it's going to be set to 1 and then immediately reset. If I set it to 2, we have nothing that triggers off 2 yet, so my map control action remains number 2. Let's teleport over to our command blocks right here. Now the first thing that we are going to look at is the unfortunate situation with the sign. That sign is being set here in one of these command blocks right here, and is currently only being executed when we have a score in the action scoreboard that is 1. Then we're doing a block data and we're updating text 3 of that sign. Now unfortunately Minecraft 1.9 has this bug that I ran into when I updated Entrapment recently on a live stream to work with Minecraft 1.9, and there is no really good way around this at the moment. Whenever you leave a chunk and then come back, your sign is going to reset. Whenever you save the map and then load it back up, your sign is going to reset. The way to deal with this is to simply keep setting the block data of that sign. We're going to remove this, and that's every tick we're going to set this text. That's not ideal in any way, but at least it's going to work. Now another thing that you need to know of signs in Minecraft 1.9 is that you need all the components of it. So we're going to add in a text 1. And that's going to be a blank text. And we're also going to add in a text 2, because it's not just the text part of the sign with the score that disappears, it's also everything else in the sign. That means that text 2 will also need to be added in for us to have the text completed on the sign, even though it's just a text. So we're going to do text and a string that says round length. Like so. Now if we save that and we head on back to survival mode and our spawn area, we can see that now this says round length 1 minute and I can cycle it. So unfortunately we're now running a block data command against this sign every tick. Hopefully the Minecraft developers will fix that soon enough so that we can go back to just updating this when it needs to be updated. But in the released version of Minecraft 1.9, this is what you have to do. Now let's look at our ready check and go back over there. In the action command block over here, we use an execute command on the player with the score in the action scoreboard that is 1 to do things with the round length. We're of course going to do the same thing. We're going to use executes off of the player with an action score that is 2 in order to be able to separate out action number 2. So we're going to set a sign here as a reminder for ourselves what we're doing. Request ready check. That's what we want. And in this block we're going to execute off of that player who now has a score in the action scoreboard of 2. What do we want to do here? Well, we're going to fill in stuff here. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to figure out, are we ready to start the map? First thing we need to do is we need to have 2 teams. Now, if you recall, let's go back over to our spawn area. These are armor stands. There's one armor stand, spectator mode. There's one armor stand standing right here in the middle of the red team area, and there's one armor stand standing here in the middle of the blue team area. If I do entity data at e type equals armor stand, c equals 1, we'll see that this has a ton of data, but among that we have a custom name, and it is blue team. The other one, of course, will have a custom name of red team. So we have our 2 entities representing the teams, and we're going to use those to count our players. First of all, though, we're going to use a scoreboard for this. Scoreboard objectives add player count dummy player count per team. Now that's going to come in handy now that we want to check for a ready check, but it's also going to come in handy later if we're making like a deathmatch sort of game to count how many players remain and so to know when one team has won the game. How do we count the number of players? Well, we're going to want to apply things to these teams. So I'm going to add, let's see, scoreboard players tag, and E type equals understand equals blue team list. And I'm going to have to go and do this over in our spawn area because otherwise it isn't loaded. It doesn't appear to have any tags. We're going to add a team tag to it. And then of course we're going to do the same to the red team. Now both of those armor stands have a team tag added onto them, which means that we can do things to them by referring to them through their tag. So what we're going to do is scoreboard players set E tag equals team. And what we're going to do is set their score in the player count objective to 0. Now, after we've done that, we have a score of 0 for both of those armor stands. We're going to copy this execute because everything we want to do here should be prefaced with this execute, just in order to make sure that we don't do any unnecessary work when we aren't requesting a ready check. We're going to follow this up with an execute. And this execute is going to be for players rather than for the armor stand. What we want is for the team to be blue. So everybody on the team blue is going to run a command. And the command is going to be a scoreboard players add at E name equals blue team player count 1. So whenever we request a ready check, we're going to zero out the blue team's player count. And then we're going to execute a command for every player in the blue team that adds 1 to the blue team player count. So that gives us the total player count for the blue team. And of course we're going to have to do this for the red team too, so let's copy that command. Add another command block in the right direction. There we go. And add in this command. Same things, but red team instead of blue team, and red team instead of the blue team player count. So if I set my sidebar to the player count and we head over to our spawn area, we can see that the blue team now has a player count of 1, while the red team has a player count of 0. Because my score in the action scoreboard is going to be 2, this is going to update all the time, so we can test it by joining the other team instead and seeing that the armor stands switch places in the scoreboard. So far so good, that appears to be working. Let's go back to the commands. Now that we have that, we want to be able to send some form of error message, and that error message is going to be whenever we don't have enough players on a team. Now here we face a bit of a problem. If I send an error message now because I have an action score of 2 and we never reset it, that will show every single tick. That's going to spam me terribly, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 2 more commands here. Now we have 3 empty commands. The first one is going to be an error message, the second one is going to be the success criteria, and the third one is going to be the reset. So in this third block, we're going to do basically the same thing as this block does, I believe. Not that one. Here we go. Once we're over here, we're going to take everybody who has a score in the action scoreboard, that is 2, and we're going to reset that score. Now, we are going to grab this selector, that's what we're going to be reusing for this block, and now we're going to do an error message. This error message is going to be a tell row, of course, and the tell row is going to be directed at this selector. This is the person who clicked to get a ready check. So that's the person we want to address, and we're going to send a tell row, so we got to do that text message, and it's going to say you need at least 1 player on each team. Well, that's great and all, but now it's going to send it every tick. So we need a condition for this, and that condition is going to come in the form of an execute. Now the difficult part of this is constructing a selector that makes this run only when we have a team that has too few players. The way we do that is we use our new tag. So we want something with a team tag that is one of the armor stands over there with a team tag. We also want that armor stand to have a score in the player count scoreboard that is 0. This will select a team without a player. The problem with this is there could be 2 teams without players, so we only want to do this once regardless. And if that's the case, we want to do a tile raw with all of this. Okay, let's try that out first of all. Go over here and walk over to our ready check sign and click it. And it says you need at least 1 player on each team. Awesome. So that works. Now in order to be able to test we need a 2nd player. I happen to have a handy friend available. So let's just start a LAN server here and get my friend into the game. Alright, my friend Limeslice has joined the server. Now I can step on to the blue team, and Limeslice, who's definitely not me, can join the red team. This means we now have a player on each team, so if I go to click ready check, we should not be getting an error message. And we are not getting an error message. That's great. But if I also join the red team, we now have 2 players on one team and 0 players on the other team. So our check is working, but we have nothing that activates the game for real. Let's remove the scoreboard from our screen and take a look at this remaining command block. Now we have one final action to do for action number 2. That is going to be to set the state of the game to 1, which represents our ready check state. But we only want to do this if both the teams have at least 1 player, so we're going to have to check for that too. And the way we do that is by nesting the execute commands. What that means is we do it in execute at E, tag equals team, name equals blue team, score, player count, min equals 1. Okay, so if the blue team has at least 1 player, then we're going to keep executing. And then we'll execute for the red team. And if they also have at least 1 player, then we're going to run scoreboard players set at E, type equals armor stand, name equals game, state 1. So with that fairly massive command done, we are ready to test this out. To do that, we'll go over to our friendly fellow Limeslice over here, who's mysteriously just standing still and doing nothing, and click the ready check sign. Apparently we're both on the same team still, so we'll go and join the blue team and now click again. Now what happened? Well, the join clouds stopped. We didn't get any message, we didn't see anything else, but the game has now left the lobby state. We are no longer in the lobby state, so now we can get on with doing our ready check. Now we're facing another problem, and that is we have no way to get back to our lobby state yet. So we're going to do scoreboard players set at E, name equals game, state 0. Let's head on back over and let's discuss some other issues. Now we didn't get any message when we headed into the ready check or anything. These blocks just lifted us over into state number 1 here, which did nothing. If you want to add a message, we can't add it here because it will spam every tick. And we could add more and more blocks over here, but really, this is the stuff we want to run every tick for state 0. So that's not really what we want. What we want is a good way of triggering a line of command blocks when we enter a certain state. We have commands that execute conditionally when we are in a certain state, but what we want is a trigger for executing commands when we enter a certain state. And to do that, we're going to do something extremely similar to this. So we're grabbing one of these blocks and we're just going to set ourselves apart a bit. What do we have? We have 4 blocks apart here. That looks to be the case. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, the 5th block. Okay. So let's place this down. In Minecraft 1.9, it doesn't matter as much how you lay out your command blocks, really. So we can do this. Now, what we're going to do is very similar to what this one does. If you don't remember, this one does a test for the game armor stand that has a score that is 1 in the state scoreboard. We are going to add a new objective called old state. Dummy, previous state. Now, if you recall, this stuff, this repeating command block here is the stuff that runs every single tick, regardless of our state. So we're going to add on a command block to this. This is the first stuff that runs. And what this is going to do is it's going to do scoreboard players operation E type equals armor stand name equals game old state equals this whole thing again state. So if we do scoreboard objectives set display sidebar old state, we'll see that it has a previous state of 0. Now when we update the state, whoops, entering state 0, state 1 is what we want here. When we enter the ready check state, we are at one single tick in a state where the previous state is still going to be 0, but the state is actually going to be 1. That is what we're going to be testing for in this block. So we're going to test for the entirely same thing, but we're also going to test for a score of old state equals 0. Aha. And then as you recall, this thing should be set to conditional. Activate these in the correct order, like so. Now, to just test this out, let's do a say command in this one that says starting ready check. And now, since I have my trusty fellow Limeslice standing patiently over in our lobby, we can actually run a trigger action set to command here to execute the entire ready check from here. And we get starting ready check, and it happens only once. The difference is, if we had set that in here, this one will trigger all the time. So now we can do something more interesting here. For instance, we can do a teleraw with the starting ready check instead, so that we get the ability to format this at however you'd like. And I'm also going to do a telraw focused advanced commands tutorial at some point in the near future. But this will do for now. And if we do scoreboard players set at E, game equals game state 0, and then trigger this again, we'll see that we'll get starting ready check. This is something we'll want to be using several times in the coming episodes, where we quite commonly will be dealing with transitions between different states and the things that we want to do when that happens, and then a large amount of things that we want to continuously do while we're in that state. For now, though, that will have to be enough. This episode is running a bit long, so we'll leave it at that and head on over to investigate what this will look like in Minecraft 1.8 instead, because it's going to be fairly different. And here we are in the wonderful world of Minecraft 1.8.9 and our fail clocks. This, as you recall, does exactly the same thing as our Minecraft 1.9 counterparts, but let's head on over to our spawn area. The coordinates are actually slightly different because I accidentally arranged this platform a bit differently, but we're going to do exactly the same thing, and it's going to look pretty much identical for this part. Alright, now we've done the same thing here. Map control action is 2, the ready check will set it to 2. Now the problem is we used a tag for these armor stands, and we can't use a tag in Minecraft 1.8 because tags don't exist. So to get around that, we use an objective instead. So scoreboard objectives add team dummy team armor stand tag. Now we're going to do essentially the same thing as we did in Minecraft 1.9, but using these fill clocks and that team scoreboard instead. So let's just copy and paste our commands from Minecraft 1.9 into Minecraft 1.8.9, and let me show you what the difference is. The action scoreboard is still the same, but this tag doesn't exist. Instead we'll have to use score team min equals 1, and then set those player counts to 0. We're gonna have to add that to player count dummy player count per team. And here's the second command. The only difference here is that instead of tag equals team, we're going to have to use type equals armor stand to make sure that this is not a player. Same thing here. Tag equals team has to go away. Score team mean equals 1 instead. Now here is probably the biggest difference. Since we are running off of fill clocks, this doesn't quite do the job. We're setting the state to 1 here. That is correct. But we also want to execute a line of redstone when that happens, and that is more difficult. We could set up state clocks like these, but test for the same thing that we did in Minecraft 1.9, but I actually find it more convenient to just go back over here and pick a new chunk and set a redstone line. So we're going to do that. This is looking in positive X direction. We're just going to do set block. "16 blocks away," and we're going to set a stone block there. Here we have something to start off from. This block is 10, 25, 1, 1. That's the block that we're going to be using. So what I'm going to be doing is, in addition to doing this, I'm going to take the entire same execution and I'm going to copy it and make another command block out of that, and that is going to execute in 10, 25, 1, 1, and it's going to be a fill command, and that fill command is going to fill a bunch of blocks with redstone blocks, and let's say we do 10 redstone blocks for now. We are again joined by Limeslice, who can go and join the red team. Hey! Now if we do a ready check, we'll see that we are back in the state where we have switched away from the lobby state. Now over at the command blocks we'll see this. This is the important thing that has happened. And these are the command blocks that are going to run. So at the very end of this, we're going to do a fill command, and that fill command is going to fill these things back with stone. So there we go. Whenever we switch into state 1, we're going to get these blocks flickering to redstone and then back to stone. And here we can start adding our commands, and then we're going to add the very same command that we added in Minecraft 1.9, and then we're done. And to test that out, let's go trigger action set 2 here. And you can see that flashing, and it says starting ready check. So we're in the same position in Minecraft 1.8.9 and in Minecraft 1.9. As usual, if you want to tinker with this or try it out for yourself, you can find downloads to these worlds, both Minecraft 1.8.9 and Minecraft 1.9, down in the video description. Next time, we'll look at using this to actually give out the snowballs and to test for who's ready and who isn't, and then make a colorful and nice scoreboard out of that. As always, thank you for watching, and if you have any questions and comments or requests for future episodes, then feel free to leave a comment down in the comments section, and I'll do my best to answer and to take any requests into account when planning the rest of this series. That is it for this time. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.